You said something very fascinating in the book about the effect of that experience on you, where you said that there was a tearing, a fracturing that took place, and that my recollection is that you were talking about there was a whole question about your recovery from that, but also a whole question of the kind of alchemical meaning or power of that. Would you like to share something about that? Because I thought that was very different from the sorts of thought forms that most of us have in relationship to that sort of traumatic experience.
Yeah, this actually very much connects to our initial conversation about integration. So, in the shamanic tradition, we talk about it as soul retrieval. So, at the moment when the trauma happens, in many, experience different traumas, especially as children, we don't always know how to process the trauma in the moment. So we freeze our memory because, again, memory is non local. It feels like it's in our brain, but we already know from scientific discoveries and enough evidence that memory is not really, it's not really in the brain, it's non local. So the shamanic way makes sense now that this particular experience was so much to process. It's like it was like a blur that day for a while. Like I couldn't see it. I had to clear a lot of energy around it to start seeing exactly what was going on because it was so much that we freeze this soul piece, right? And then later, many years after when we do the trauma work, it's almost like the memory starts opening up, clarity happens, and we reintegrate in the soul piece when we do soul retrieval in shamanism, someone actually even can travel with you as as another power animal and collect that soul piece and blow it into you. I've done a lot of shamanic journeys with people where I would blow the soul pieces for them or the other way around. Um, Going back to the phoenix, when I stepped into my phoenix, someone did a soul retrieval with me, and she was pretty new to it, and she collected um, a nebula and blew it back into me like a black hole. And she then later was like, does this make sense for you?" I'm like, "Yeah, I actually went into this somatic wave when she did that." I was like, "Totally makes sense." Because like I said, the phoenix as much as destroy as a creator. So all of it is possible, like to take that all in. Um, so I do believe quantumly, there's a tear that happens in that moment in the timeline, and we have to go back and s- recollect that piece or heal that moment in time, collapse it in, and bring it in. And that's what happens in a lot of sessions that I do. People come for quantum healing hypnosis, and I regress them back into their past lives, whether on Earth or off Earth. At the end, there's always like a healing moment where I ask, what was the purpose of this lifetime? What was the healing? Why? What did you need to learn? And at the moment, the soul is actually reflecting on the lesson. And it's kind of doing that integration into the now because even though you're deep in theta hypnosis, the person is still conscious of what's happening. And so that energy is almost like resurface from the subconscious as a trauma into the conscious, reintegrated. And it's like, yeah, whatever that situation was, whether, you got killed in a battlefield or stabbed or whatever it was, or, some people, for instance, have fears of water because they were drowned in past life. I mean, there's so many stories, but as you recognize that moment, you integrate it and you bring that soul piece back into you. And that's the work that I've done myself and I help others to do.
Beautiful. And I'm aware that's only a part of what you're doing. So, but an important part, very significant part. And I felt that the way you described that whole